Hello all, I am Paul Patrone, sales editor at LinkedIn, and I am so excited to be here at our studio in downtown San Francisco for Dreamforce, talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, growth. So why is growth near and dear to my heart? My belief, talent is overrated. Yes, people are pre-wired to be better at some things than others, no doubt. But what I found is that any innate talent fades really fast. Instead, I believe what separates successful from not successful is one's ability to learn and grow. And more than any other profession, I see that about sales, which I think is why sales is such a great democratic profession and a great thing to get involved in. So enough about me. I want to introduce our panelists. First off, both are inaugural members of LinkedIn Sales Insider Program. What's LinkedIn Sales Insider Program? There's a lot of salespeople across the world creating content on LinkedIn. We've identified 23 who have done a great job of sharing their authentic story and sharing their learnings and their growth and just their professional and even their personal struggles as they've gone through this profession. And two of the favorites and two of the standouts really are Morgan and Gabrielle. So I'd love to introduce you both. I'm going to start with you, Morgan. Morgan, 3 questions for you.
Okay.
First off, what do you do?
Yep.
Who do you do it for?
Yeah.
And to have a little fun, what's something that I wouldn't know about you if I looked at your LinkedIn profile?
Ooh, okay. This is going to be a really exciting one. So what I do is I do sales coaching, typically for like high growth companies that are growing really fast, from like sales development or account executives looking to prospect better. Also do content creation on LinkedIn, which has helped me get here as well. I love the platform. And then who I do it for is typically people who are looking to elevate their craft, people who want to get to the next level, and people who truly want to take their brands to the next level. And something that you would not know if you looked on my LinkedIn is I've met Michael Jordan.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did you meet Michael Jordan?
So it was the Disney Wild World of Sports. And we were there, and one of our teammates was dating Michael Jordan's daughter or something crazy like that. So,
wow.
So he was like, hey, we can go meet Michael Jordan, because he was watching the son play at the same tournament as us. So yeah, we went over, met him, shook his hand and everything. It was an incredible experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I have not forgot about you, Miss Blackwell.
Thank you.
Gabrielle Blackwell. Follow her on LinkedIn. Follow Morgan as well, by the way. I forgot to mention that in the opening. Gabrielle, 3 questions for you. Same 3 questions. What do you do? Who do you do it for? And something I would not know about you looking at your LinkedIn profile.
All right. So what I do, I lead sales development teams. I'm currently at Airtable. Outside of leading teams, I'm also mentoring and coaching folks who want to become SDR leaders. I've also created some content around just leading sales development teams too. And then in terms of something that somebody doesn't know about me or they can't find on my LinkedIn profile, I'm going to go in the same vein as Morgan. I actually spent a week with Barack Obama when he was the president. I was babysitting for one of his friends, and they sent me out to Hawaii during their trip. So
wow.
Yeah, I got to go on vacation with the president at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Morgan?
I got one up, so I'm like, guess it, doesn't help to go first in these types of situations.
Okay, so I shared a little bit about my why on why I think owning your own development is so important, but I'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to start with you, Gabrielle. Why do you think owning your own development as a seller is so important?
Yes. So one of the things that I noticed was if I were to rely only on the company or my managers, however well-intentioned they are, I probably was always going to fall behind. When I started to really look at what are all the other resources available to me, so whether it's mentors or I was checking out Morgan's SDR Chronicles when I was an SDR, really trying to find anything and everything, anyone everywhere who can help me develop my skills. That's really where I was able to set myself apart. So when I thought about my role, that meant, all right, I'm attaining more, I'm making more money, I have more opportunities available to me as well. And that was the most important thing, was I want to have as many opportunities as possible.
Amazing. And Morgan, same question for you.
Yeah, so when you think about why you should be owning your development across the board, is I like to say this quote is outside of your 9 to 5 is where you thrive. When you're inside of what your current occupation is or your job, you do what you need to do, and that's incredibly important. However, the skills and the development you do for yourself is up to you. typically people aren't going to proactively give you the resources that you need
Yeah.
and to level up in that way. And I like to treat it, and we can go this route, but I like to treat it as like a video game. You play any video game, you're not going to go anywhere unless you skill up, right? The easiest game you could think about is The Sims. So if you played The Sims before, in order to get promoted, you had to do some things before you went back to work to get the promotion. Speak in the mirror, do certain aspects of like making sure that you could communicate. And as you gain those skills, it allowed you to get those promotions. And it's the same thing in life, is they might not give you the resources at the job. Some do, but most won't. So you have to do it yourself to get to that next level that you deserve.
I agree. It gives you that feeling of control when you do it instead of relying on your company to maybe do it. All right, we're going to bring this real for a second. I wanted to hopefully you both be a little vulnerable. I would love to hear an example of a hard lesson you learned in your sales career and how how that accelerated your development.
Yeah.
So I'll start with you, Morgan.
So start with me with vulnerability?
Yes.
We don't want to start with her.
You're great
first.
at vulnerability, though.
You're the
most vulnerable person I know.
I might be the worst person to start with this. I don't know if we want to start with me. So a time that I really took a step back and I was like, okay, this was a massive mistake that I made, was when I first started selling sales training. It was about 3 to 4 years ago. And I had been getting a lot of coaching with John about how to drive a sales cycle, how to talk to decision makers, et cetera. So I finally got this decision maker on the call. He was a CRO, and this was a pretty big opportunity. It was around 60 to 80 reps that I was going to train. So this is the biggest conversation I had.
Yep.
Before I got into the sales call, my point of contact was like, hey, you need to come with these data points to the call to make sure that we have a very good call. Now, I didn't listen to that because I was like, I'm just going to come in here and just talk, and it's just going to work out, right?
You're right.
It's just going to work. And so I remember being 15 minutes into the call, and the CR was like, hey, I haven't learned anything on this call yet, and this is a complete waste of my time, so we're not going to do business with you, and I don't want to move forward at all. Please don't contact us ever again.
Okay.
And the call ended.
That's some direct feedback.
And the call ended.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, so should I just quit? Should I just go find a marketing job or something? Should I go in IT? Because I don't know. It's clearly sales isn't for me. However, that was one of the best lessons and mistakes that I had, because every single call I go on now, I'm over-prepared. And that's helped me throughout my entire career, and also has helped me with coaching as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
That was pretty vulnerable.
Yeah.
I got to give you credit, Morgan.
Yeah.
All right, Gabrielle.
Yes.
Topped him last time. Let's see it.
No, yeah, it's not a competition. Not a competition. Number one. I think back to 2016. I had moved over to a new company. I'd gone from being an SDR to getting promoted into an AEC. And as an SDR, I was always the top performer. I was 3Xing the next top person. And when I stepped into the AEC, I was kind of like, all right, if I just do what I did as an SDR, I'll be really successful. With 1 month left to go in the quarter, I was at zero, nothing, right? Out of a sales team of 75 people, I was in the absolute bottom. I had absolutely nothing going for me whatsoever. I kind of felt like I was having a bit of an existential crisis. It was similar, this is not for me. What am I doing? Who did I think I was in order to think I could actually do this job? And the VP of sales, I remember he came up to me and he's like, listen, I've seen you work. I know you're really good. And you need to go and talk to the top 3 performers in the organization. They already know that you're going to go and reach out to them. And I want you to ask these specific questions. So in that, I was like, all right, I'm going to go and have these conversations. I'm going to just admit that I don't know what I'm doing whatsoever. And I'm going to be open to trying out whatever it is that these top performers are doing. I ended up closing 100K, and my quota was 43. So I ended up being 193% of my number. I was the top person on my team, top person in the region as well. And I did all of that in the last 2 weeks of the quarter. So I'm that to me was a huge wake-up call of I can't just keep on doing things by myself. I have to be open to asking people for help. And it completely flipped the script in my performance.
I love that. I think it just shows that we're all going to fail, right? It's just a matter of, are you going to own that failure and learn from it, or are you going to let it own you? So, all right. Tactically speaking, how do you bake development into your own lives? I'll start with you, Gabrielle.
Yes. So when I was a rep, one of the things that I did is I grew up playing sports, and so there was always the phrase, if you're on time, you're late. So, and I don't like to rush either into my day. So I would actually show up to the office about 45 minutes early. I'd take 15 minutes to, grab a coffee, get my water, sit down, really get settled in. And then for 30 minutes, I would just do learning and development things. So whether that was, all right, I really want to tackle a new industry in my book of business that I'm not really sure about. So I just want to understand like what's going on for themes and trends. I want to understand who are the thought leaders in this space. I want to also like see who in my network I can reach out to and talk to as well. And I had that baked in. So every single day, first 30 minutes of the day was dedicated to learning and development. And then I was also thinking about, all right, I want to get better, and I want to also talk to people who are not at my organization. So I'd find ways to look at, let me spend one lunch per month as well, talking to someone outside of the organization too. As a manager now, it's really come through like connecting with other people and thinking through like, all right, I want to get better at my job, I want to network, and how can I kind of kill multiple birds with one stone. And so I've really thought about like, let me start to join professional organizations. Like these are going to be people who are going to help me get better at my job. It's going to have an immediate impact as well. But also at the same time, I'm just getting exposure to so many other things. So it's like find 30 minutes, put it on your calendar. And I think also like find your community as well and set up recurring meetings with them.
Love that. How about you, Morgan?
Yeah, I want to touch on something that was just said around blocking time to learn, because what's something that we don't really focus on as much is like things that we've done in the past and then bring them into something current. So what I mean is like the majority of people have gone to middle school, high school, or college. Now, when you enter high school or you're in college, they say, hey, you got to go to class for an hour or an hour and a half or however much it is. When we get into our 9 to 5 or whatever job that we're doing, we forget that aspect of the learning that we're blocked out for that time.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, just like Gabrielle was saying, block out 30 minutes or an hour a day to learn something. Now, I know people have different responsibilities, kids, like all those things. I understand that. But what I'm also saying is that like you can take 30 minutes, 45 minutes to learn and maybe replace that Netflix show or Hulu show that you were going to watch and learn a skill that can amplify your career and also where your family is. I'll bring it back to like how I do it myself. So there's this concept that I have amongst my close friends, and we like to call it MEPS. So that how are you doing mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So when you think of growth, it's those 4 areas of life that everyone is trying to grow, no matter who you are. Like those 4 typically encompass your growth. So you have to take a step back and make a decision within MEPS, what skills do I need to learn to hit my goal or lifestyle that I'm looking to accomplish? So I might be like, all right, physically, I need to go work out more. Okay, so what does that mean? I might need to go get a trainer to up my skill on how I'm working out. Maybe my posture when I work out is bad and I keep hurting myself. Well, that's not good, right? I need to fix that. Mentally, okay, maybe I need to start doing yoga. Maybe I go to therapy, right? Maybe I start reading. These are different aspects that you can look at when it comes to growth. My last point on this is I actually got this from, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, Mob Mentality, one of my heroes. I watched an interview with him on Lewis Howes, and he talked about how he learned basketball. He learned it step by step. He was like, all right, cool, well, I'm not good right now, so let me go learn how to do a layup, right? Let me go learn how to do a left-hand layup. Then let me learn how to pass. Let me learn how to do a three-pointer, right? So he elevated his game, and we could do the same thing. As you look at MEPS, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and then you're like, where do I want to go and what do I want to tackle?
Yeah, that's a great example because you think about talent, think about Kobe Bryant, and people say, well, he was great because he was talented. He was talented. He was great because what you just said. He put the time in and improved every single day.
First game he played, he scored 0 points.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the whole season that he played? He scored 0 points.
It was terrible.
There was one more thing to this. There's another interview that I saw him in, and he talked about it. It's just math. So we're talking about like, all right, if you put the time in, you're going to see the results later on.
Yeah.
So for him, he's like, all right, what he saw was everybody else maybe had like 2 or 3 years on him, and he was like, all right, if I can find a way to accumulate that same amount of experience, if not more, I will be better than everybody else. And so he would spend, let's say, like 5-6 hours in the gym every single day. And he's like, this is a math equation. They're only spending 2 to 3 days in the gym.
Yeah.
So I can quickly eclipse them. So this is also a big piece of it is I think people can look around and say, well, so-and-so is better than me because they have more experience. But really it's a matter of, all right, just how much time do you need to dedicate? Like how many skills do you need to accumulate? And if you look at it as a math equation, like you can quickly progress and overperform and like surpass the majority of people because they're not putting in that same level of effort and work outside of the 9 to 5.
I totally agree. I love that. All right, so we've talked about you. I'd love to talk up to the audience for a minute. So let's say, okay, I'm inspired. I want to be just like Kobe. I want to own my own development. Where do I start? Where do I begin? I'll start with you, Morgan.
Yeah, so where you start, I've ran a workshop with this on a couple of things that I've done with mentees and things of that nature, is you first have to figure out two things. One is, what goals are you looking to hit? You can do them by a quarterly basis or a yearly basis. It depends on what you're gonna do. I actually don't prefer a monthly basis. I did that and it was way too much.
Yeah.
It's way too hectic, right? Like, I was just like all over the place, especially like you think about December and like November, it's like you got Thanksgiving and Christmas, so it's just harder.
Yeah.
I like to think about it in terms of like quarters, right? It's just crazy.
I just see you with like a turkey leg, like, what's going on?
I can't hit my goals today because we got Thanksgiving. Like, what are we doing, right? Like, no, Mom, I don't want the yams right now, right? So like, these are things that like, you might mess you up, okay?
Right.
So when I think of the goals, I say quarterly, and then that's the first question. Your second question is what most people don't ask themselves is, what lifestyle do you want? That will change the way that you go out and learn certain things. You might be like, you know what? I want to work 18 hours a day. All right, cool. But maybe later in your life, you're like, I only want to work like 5 hours a day. I want to be able to travel, whatever that is. But there's certain skills that you're going to have to go learn in order to do that. You can't just go do that randomly.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to have to level up in some way. So once you have those two questions answered, then you back end. I do this all the time. So I'm looking at what are my goals? And I'm like, okay, what skills do I need to learn to accomplish these goals? It's not like, here's a goal, like, let's figure it out. It's, no, what skills do I need to learn here to be better? Right? So it becomes more of a skill growth development game across the board on what I need to do, right? If you're looking to close more revenue, well, you probably need to get better at discovery and building up your pipeline. So you probably need to go get mentors, seek advice, go to workshops, buy books, whatever that may be, right? Maybe you're like, hey, I really want to get more mental clarity. I want to have better decision making. Maybe you need to go to a float tank, do more yoga, pray. I don't know, but you have to figure out what skills, what are things I need to do to grow. So once you figure out your lifestyle, once you figure out the goals, it's easier to back in and reverse engineer what you need to do.
I love that. And I also love just call out in the very beginning, giving yourself a little bit of grace sometimes. You talk about those monthly goals. I think that's a problem I had in the beginning was giving yourself a little bit of grace. We all want to improve, but not so hard on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Gabrielle.
Yeah, so when I'm thinking about like creating goals or just thinking about how I'm going to develop, the first thing that I like to do is understand like what am I actually trying to do here? And one of the questions that I really liked, it was introduced to me by a mentor of mine, is she said, ask yourself the question, 1 year from now, like what in my current state, like if it's still there, it's a huge problem. Like if I'm 1 year from now and something hasn't changed, it's a huge problem. She's like, that becomes your focus. So that becomes your number one priority of how you can change it. So like I always like to start off there of like what needs to be different in order for me to feel like I'm growing, I'm doing what I want to do, I'm where I want to be. Now the next part is then thinking about, okay, like what are the certain actions that I need to take? So it is like reverse engineering from that. It's like, all right, well, what is this new state? What does this ideal state look like? Where am I right now? What is the actual gap between where I'm at today? Where do I want to be? Like, have some milestones as well. Like, what are the different checkpoints that let me know I'm moving in the right direction or that I'm off the path? And then I think the next thing after that is also looking at what are your strengths? Like how you accomplish goals is not going to look the same. Like how Morgan is going to accomplish a certain thing, how I'm going to accomplish something, they can be totally, totally different because we have different strength sets. So it's like understanding what are your strengths, what are the strengths that are going to help you progress and propel you forward, what are the strengths that you need to like develop over time, but it's not going to happen right away. And then like who are the people around you who can help get you to where you want to go. I'd also introduce like giving yourself opportunities to celebrate. It's a little bit like the grace, like, all right, I hit this milestone, and when I hit this milestone, this is how I'm going to celebrate. I'm also a big proponent of visualizing too. So like some of the things that I do with my reps, I'm like, all right, you want to hit this big goal, like tell me, like who are you going to tell? Right? Like you've just hit this goal. Who are you going to tell? Who's the first person you're going to call? How are you going to feel? How are you going to celebrate? Write it out, put it in a vision board as well. Because if we're able to like embody that feeling of success, then we're like attuning ourselves to being able to actually go and get it.
I'm with you. I wanted to get a raise this year. I play Wordle every day. My starting word every day and Wordle was raise. So I'm with you on the visualization. That's what it's all about. All right. You two both obviously very committed to your goals and want to grow in all of this. But theoretical example, let's just say maybe your colleagues or your friends or both aren't as committed to their goals and their growth as you may want to be. How do you get through that?
You're fired. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry, I'll start with you, Gabrielle, on that one.
Yeah, I feel like just even friends that I've had as a kid to friends through college, high school, all of that, like my friend group has changed so much, and it can be hard because I'm like, all right, the person that I was 4 years ago is not the person that I am today. The person that I'm gonna be a year from now is gonna be very different than who I am, like sitting here right on this couch. And so typically what ends up happening is even if my friends and I don't have the same goals, we might have the same values. And the values are we want to grow, we want to develop, we want to get better, we want to be better people, like we want better for the people around us, and we want to be encouraged and we want to encourage other people. Where I feel like I run into trouble with people who have been friends or where we've fallen out is like we just don't share those same values, and that becomes very apparent as I am growing and as I'm in alignment with myself. So I don't know if it's a matter of like you need to have the exact same goals. I think it comes down to being in a place where you and the people around you like are sharing or respecting what you value and will support you on that journey. But if someone's like, oh, hey, Gabrielle, like, I miss the old Gabrielle. I'm like, I don't. I don't, right? So I think it's just really like being very, very mindful of who you are, like what you value, what you need to support you in that environment, including your friends, and then being ruthless, in my opinion, about like preserving that space. Like you deserve it. You owe it to yourself to make sure you're surrounding yourself with the best possible people and the best possible energies.
I love that. How about you, Morgan?
Yeah, so energy is everything. Whether people want to disagree with it or not, it is. So you have to protect that space. And sometimes you might not be able to do it yourself. So one of the key components that Gabrielle talked about was having values. Values is the foundation of your entire relationships. If we don't have aligned values, we are not going to be around each other much longer. like it's gonna be pretty quick. I'm like, all right, see you later, because it's just not gonna work. Energy is gonna be weird. It's not gonna be a good vibe for anyone. So ultimately, when you're looking at this, we got to get the value foundation first. Then you have to find people that can protect your house. This is really important because what happens is someone could like fake values and they could sneak in the back door. Then they're in the house and then they start blowing stuff up. Like, yo, why aren't the dishes done, right? Why is the couch turned over? Why is the bed not made up? That's what starts happening in your life if you have the wrong people come in your house. So you have to find the people that can protect your house. So one of the things I have is with my core friends is if someone starts getting weird or values aren't aligned, it's a collective decision, like we will not hang out with this person anymore. We just don't do it. And also we look out for each other. So if someone new like starts to hang out with us, you get vetted. Like if you're not have the same values, like you ain't gonna be along, you're just not gonna be around. And people don't think about it that way. Like my dad said something so important to me. And I'll get in conclusion of like how you can have conversations with people and really figure out the goal set. He said, you don't wanna say that you have a lot of friends, you wanna just say you have a lot of acquaintances. Because we say, oh, I got a lot of friends, I got a lot of people. But in reality, like you only have a core amount of people, right, that you like really trust, or even like colleagues that you really trust. Everyone else is an acquaintance. So you have to treat that accordingly. And so to go back to the point of like, how do you see, goals and things of that nature? Like one of my best friends, we do not have the same goals as all. I'm really intense, right? I'm like, this is what needs to get done. But my other friend's like, yo, it's chill, it's good, whatever. He's just chill. He's just like, I'm good. And but he's one of my closest friends because we have the same values. So just because I want to go do this, he might want to go do this, and in my eyes it's like lower. It's not, because for him it's this. But we have aligned values, and it's good. However, if someone is dragging me down, and they're like, oh, you're doing this stuff, and like, why are you doing all this? Then that's a conversation where it's like, hey, like, we can't be as close as we were. Because you're dragging me down from what I need to do. You can be here, and we can be here, and that's cool, but once you start dragging me down, I have to cut you off.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful. You've had cut-off conversations before?
I've sat down with people and said, hey, like, we've been friends for a really long time through middle school and high school. I've appreciated during those times. However, there's certain conversations you have with me where I feel like you're dragging me down or you're preventing me from what I need to do, and like we can't be as close anymore. I've had those conversations.
Have you, Gabrielle?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Wow.
been family, friends. There's like this biblical phrase where it says like the path is narrow. Like when you're doing something great,
Yeah.
like when you're really rising above everything else, like that does mean there's not going to be as many people that are there. And so I got this from a mentor where he had said, he's like, honestly, he's like, Gabrielle, like you're boundless. Like you can do whatever you want, and not everybody is going to support you on that because they can't even see that for themselves.
Right.
So I think in that way, I'm like, I don't take it personally. I'm just like, I never know what's going on in someone else's life. That being said, like I'm on my path. I know what I'm doing, and every moment that I'm not pursuing that, like I'm out of touch with myself. And so like I like using a nonviolent like communication framework. So it's like, here's what I'm observing, here's how I feel about that, here's what here's what I need, and then I make a request. So, for some people it might just be like, hey, when you say X, Y, and Z to me, like, hey, like when you make fun of the goals that I shared with you, it really makes me feel like you're not super supportive. And what I really need right now is I need to like make sure I'm surrounding myself with the people who are going to help me accomplish that. So then I'll make a request. It's like, hey, like, could you keep that commentary to yourself? Or like, hey, actually, I'm going to need some time, right? Like, if we want to revisit this conversation and this relationship, we can. But for every relationship that dragged me down, that I cut off, I feel like my growth slingshotted afterwards. So I just know how much potential I have, so like all the things that I can do, and I'm just not willing at all anymore to hold myself back because somebody else, like either one, can't see it for themselves or doesn't want to see that for me.
I love that. I love that visual of the slingshot. Okay. How do you track it over time? How do you track your development? And how do you stay motivated and keep at it? So it's not a 3-month thing, for example. I'll start with you, Morgan.
Yeah, so I have a spreadsheet. I don't think anyone's surprised that I have a spreadsheet of all this. So I have a spreadsheet of like skills.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like this is pretty crazy. I do it by skills, and I rate myself on those skills like a letter grade.
I have to ask, what's your lowest rated skill right now?
You literally created a competency card for you.
Writing, yeah. Well, so like I was talking to a mentor about it, and he was like, hey, when you think of prospecting, rate your skills by letter. It was Kevin Dorsey. He was like, rate your skills by letters. And I was like, I've never thought of that before. So I did a scorecard. I was like, all right, cold calling, like A, like video processing A, like emails like C, right? I was just going through it. I was like, okay, like I'm good in these areas, but I'm not good in these areas. So it's like, okay, that means I need to go figure out how to get better at this. Maybe I need to get a B. Maybe I'm not looking to get an A, but a B is like good because these other areas cover it. So then I just was like, what if I take that to the next level? So then I just started doing it for like all the skills that are important. Public speaking, like learning psychology, copywriting, things of that nature. My lowest is copywriting and writing. It's like a D. See, I'm not the best writer. So the thing is, like, I've been working on that with the coach on how to get better at writing and getting more crisp. Because like if I can get it to a B, that's really good, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to get it to A+ because I'm not really a writer, but at least getting it a B is pretty solid. So yeah, I just have a whole entire spreadsheet and I just look at it and be like, okay, like what skills do I need to work on? Because some skills could be an F. Like for example, coding. Coding's an F.
Yeah.
If you're like, hey Morgan, you want to code something? Like, nope, computer would blow up. It would ruin the programming, and everybody would be in trouble.
Just incomplete.
They're just like,
no data.
Bye, right? But I don't need to learn coding, right? My youngest brother is really good at coding. He's probably like A+. So like, I can just be like, yo, can you do this for me? I don't need to do that, right? I can always delegate the Fs, right? However, writing, I can't just like not write, right? So I need to get better at that skill. So I just have a whole entire scorecard. I track it, I look at it, and then I have people that are mentors or really good friends hold me accountable to those things and really just testing to make sure that I am growing.
Yeah.
Delegate the Fs. I'm going to remember that.
Delegate
I like
the Fs.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
Gabrielle, how about you?
Yeah, I feel like I'll manage my ability to progress in my goals and in my development, like how I would manage my business, like with my team. So I would look at like, what are the key performance indicators? Like, what are the things that I can look at that'll let me know I'm moving in the right direction or I'm not? And so like for me, let's say one of the things that I really want to do is I want to hit a certain number of followers on LinkedIn, and then I'll back that up into what are the specific activities that are going to let me know that I'm moving in the right direction. So if it's, all right, I need to be posting this many times per week, right? I need to be connecting with this many people per week. I need to be finding like one webinar to do per week or per month or something along those lines. But I think the first part is just like, all right, I need to understand what is the specific goal and what are the activities and the actions that are going to let me know that I'm moving in the right direction. I think like that, and then just making sure that I'm like completing that and understanding as well, like, all right, well, what's working really well for me? And let's make, like, I'll note that down. I'll try and find ways to just optimize that. What are the things that are holding me back, right? And then who do I need to go and reach out to who can maybe help me? Or do I need to like revisit this goal altogether or the approach to it? I think the other piece as well is like, okay, Amy Volas gave me this one of like, hey, what's kicking my butt? I said I wasn't going to swear. What's kicking my butt right now? And over time, I'll start to know like this to me is a huge area of growth and development, and I need to add that onto my goals as well. So it's like really just having an understanding of what do you need to be tracking on a week-to-week, month-to-month, quarter-to-quarter basis. What are those like key inputs that you have full control over? That if you're doing that, you'll hit your goal over time. And I think just like having your reflection moments to understand like qualitatively what's working, what's not, and like what do you know now that you didn't know before that you need to get better at.
I love it. I'm going to give you A+ score, skill, no swearing in the whole talk.
So far though.
Yeah, we got time. Still got a little more.
So far.
Listen, we got time. We got time.
All right, last question for both of you. I'm going to start with you, Gabrielle.
Yes.
How do you know, bringing it back to the title of this session, how do you know if you're owning your development?
How do I know if I'm owning my development?
Yeah.
It's when something is not going well and I'm the only person I'm looking at to saying, hey, this is a you thing, right? We're not going to point our fingers at anybody else, but like if I'm getting into bed and things are not going the way that I wanted it to, I'm like, it's either because I didn't do something, I didn't say something, I didn't ask for help. Like, this is a me thing, so tomorrow I'm doing what I need to do to get back on track.
I love that. Morgan?
Yeah, so one of my mentors in the past, it was at a company called Terminus. He was one of the board members. His name was Tin Cop. And when you think about owning your development, that means that you're growing. And he said that you know if you're growing, you know if you're doing the right thing when you have a pull effect. So essentially, we all know pull is coming towards you. When you own your development and you're growing, things come towards you rather than you pushing towards it. Now, we always have to push towards something, growing, gaining skill sets, et cetera, like that's a part of it. However, when you truly start owning your development, things come more towards you, and he called that the pull effect. And that's what I always believe in, is that, yes, you still have to go out and do things and make things happen, but over time, those things come to you more than you have to go get it.
I've experienced that myself. I totally agree. I totally agree with both of you. Thank you. This was incredible. What I love about this is I feel like it's like I said in the beginning, it democratizes, right? If you put the effort in, you put the time, just like Kobe Bryant said, it's a math problem. Do it, you can become any sort of salesperson you want to become. And you guys are living proof of that. So thank you all for joining in. I highly recommend following both of these great people on LinkedIn. They're sharing these insights all the time. And again, they're now part of our LinkedIn Insiders program, so we'll be sharing them the latest LinkedIn data and all of that. So it'll be even that much more relevant, so I cannot wait. And then to you all, thank you for joining, and as always, happy selling.